Hey fans, Scott Warras inside the WLC Media Center. One of the signs that you know spring is around the corner and things are warming up is that men's tennis season begins. Jay Massart is in his 4th season. We're here to preview this season for the Warrior men's tennis program. Coach, thanks for the time as always.
Absolutely. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Let me go to the off season before we talk about the season that's about to embark on Saturday. What was the off-season focus for the guys? I know you had some roster turnover, which is always the case, certainly. But in terms of the returners you have, what was your message to them, and how did you want them to stay still in tune during the off-season, I guess?
Yeah, I think the message to them was we've got a young team. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not going to be the favorites here, but let's be the hardest working team. Let's be the most disciplined team. You know, let's try to be the most improved team in the conference if we can. So.
Maybe this is a tough question to ask or to answer. Collectively, on the court, where did you guys want to improve as a team? And I know it's a very individualistic sport in a lot of ways, but big picture, where did you guys want to improve?
Well, I think big picture, the things to improve are, number one, doubles. You know, I mean, obviously we're playing doubles, and so we have new players, different players. You've got to get the continuity of the doubles. And then I think from a standpoint of really focusing on positions 4, 5, and 6. You know, from a specific technical aspect, probably the serve. So doubles, the lower part of the lineup, and you know, for everybody, really, men's tennis is a lot about serving. So,
in regards to the doubles arrangement and lineup, it's an interesting point you make, building the chemistry and how do you match up, you know, strengths and weaknesses and make sure you can have the best two out there at a given time. Take us behind the curtain. How does that process work? What are you looking for as you learn, especially newcomers, obviously, and how to put them in the best position to match up in the doubles?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I don't know if you're ever quite positive. You do a lot of experimenting with a lot of different teams. Chemistry is critical. You know, you just mentioned it. I mean, if you don't like the guy you're playing with, it's going to be hard to play well together.
True.
You know, so they got to get along. They have to like each other. You know, they have to have similar philosophies. How aggressive you want to play in doubles. How much at the baseline or defensive you want to play matches up. You know, that way too. And then it's just skills. You know, whose skills complement the other player's skills. So that's really what you're looking for.
Before we get to some of the personnel, and we'll talk about some of the guys on the roster this year, just to go back and kind of piggyback off of last year, that's 4 straight seasons now where you've taken your team and qualified for the conference tournament. You've gotten in the dance, so to speak. What does that do for this year? I mean, is there any momentum, or is there something to be said for the foundation maybe of the program that you're building moving forward, regardless of roster turnover?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question and a fair question, and I think it shows that there is a precedent of excellence. You know, we're trying to build the groundwork of, hey, we qualified for the conference tournament. The goal is still to qualify for the conference tournament. You know, we've got a history of being a strong program. You know, just because we have some young players, just because maybe we've got a little smaller team than we're used to, that's not going to change anything. The big thing that we have to do, because we're small, is everyone's got to stay healthy.
Right.
You know, we can't afford a lot of injuries, a lot of illness. You know, somebody leaving school, anything like that. We got to keep people ready and raring to go.
And I imagine for the returners, and you have 5 of them this year who were part of that last year. I mean, that's kind of the bar has been set. Look, we're a NAC tournament qualifying team, and so whether it's 1 newcomer or 5 newcomers, it doesn't matter. I think probably always important for those freshmen who come in to recognize where the bar is set, and now how do we ratchet it up even more?
Absolutely. You know, that everybody has to improve. You know, there's no difference between winning a point at 6, at 3, at number 1. They're all 1 point, and we need them all, and so everyone's really got to do their job, but that's exactly right.
When we talk about personnel, in a lot of ways it starts, and deservedly so, with Aiden Newberg. He's a senior. Hard to believe he's a senior already.
It is.
Collecting all conference honors as a freshman and sophomore and a junior and first team, all singles team, I should say, the last couple of seasons. How have you challenged Aiden, and where do you want him, as great as he's been to this point, where do you want him to even get better?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question. We've got a good conference of players at number 1, so there's going to be a lot of competition for him up there. You know, I challenge him where he probably shouldn't lose more than 2 matches in the conference. You know, maybe a third one, but be competitive in every match. He's a great doubles player, so we need to, we really need to get, Connor and Aiden working together and to get that point in doubles. And where I've been kind of challenging him is with his forehand ground stroke. He's got to keep playing aggressive on it. He's got to keep timing it, and if that starts to click, he'll be a tough guy to beat, especially on these faster surfaces. In the winter, the courts tend to be faster. He's dangerous with his serve because he's got a huge serve.
Maybe it's the serve, but where has he come the furthest since he first stepped on campus as a freshman, do you think, in his game?
Oh, absolutely maturity. Absolutely the mental side of it. I mean, he's always had a good serve. He's always had, he's always been quick. He has good volleying skills. But he's really matured as a freshman. He's more of a leader now. He's more in control of his emotions when he's playing, which is a big part in our sport. And that undoubtedly is the biggest point, improvement that I've seen.
To the emotions point that you make, and tennis has been a part of your life, for better than 4 decades. As you have seen players play with emotion to varying degrees, some to their benefit,
Correct.
Some to their detriment, how have you coached emotion in your players here at WLC, or even some of the private work you do, or any stop along the way? How have you coached the emotion in or out of the game sometimes even?
Yeah, and you can't take the emotion out of it, right?
Okay.
The emotion's part of a sport. Controlling your emotion, using positive emotion. You can't let the negative emotion get to you, and if you have negative thoughts, you've got to, let that go after the point's over, reset, and make sure that you're playing the point you're on to, as well as you can play. So, positive emotion is great. You want the players to have that, but if they're getting down on themselves or angry, there are very few players that up their game when they're upset with themselves.
Is it tougher? I'm thinking of emotion. Is it tougher to reel somebody? Let's say a freshman, whatever.
Yep.
Let's say a freshman comes in and they get very excited and they're very emotional. Is it easier to bring them down than it is to maybe pull emotion out of a kid who's always kind of flatlining, so to speak?
Well, I don't know that you need to do that. I mean, as far as being too emotional, you can. Our number 2 player, Connor Heason, he's just up and tons of energy all the time, and he's the kind of a guy that you have to say, hey, Connor, take it easy, slow down a little bit here. You're a little too pumped up, a little too hyped up. And that's him, and you just have to do that. Other players that don't quite show as much emotion, as long as they have energy. To be a good athlete, you have to have high positive energy, and as long as you produce the energy, Bjorn Borg, you don't have to show a lot of emotion. Then on the other side, you've got Jimmy Connors, who was the ultimate, at showing emotion and using positive emotion. And the third aspect of that is the only player I've ever known to play better, John McEnroe, when he gets upset. And he didn't always play better when he got upset, but he was the one guy that could, pull it off a little bit, but most people cannot.
Before we move on, still on the personnel beat for just a second, and we talk about Newberg. Is there anybody else maybe that might have a breakout season? And again, I always say we don't have time to go through everybody on the roster. Anybody maybe that you're keeping an eye on, or that fans should keep an eye on? Look out for him this year.
Yeah, well, I think Connor's come a long way. He's a junior. He's going to be playing number 2 singles, number 1 doubles with Aiden. His skills have improved a lot. Like I said, he's a little bit more under control. He's always positive, and I would expect Connor would have a really nice season this year.
Before we play 5 questions with you, Coach, give us a little thumbnail of the schedule that you've put together, and of the conference as a whole, and how it kind of stacks up. I know there's been a little shuffling with a couple of schools that have dropped the program, but how would you kind of educate us on the 2025 schedule and then the way the NAC looks?
Yeah, I think, the schedule we kind of, play early in, late in January, early in February here. We start to play non-conference matches, either D2 matches or teams that aren't in our conference, just to get the guys ready and start getting, start kind of getting used to competition. Once the season starts, I think MSOE, Illinois Tech, I think will be 2 of the stronger teams. Concordia, Wisconsin probably be pretty strong as well. But if it's anything like the girls was just neck and neck, and I think we proved as underdogs we weren't supposed to, make the tournament for the girls, and we did. And I think the goal is to try to repeat that and tell the guys, hey, The girls weren't, were picked for 7th place. They tied for 4th. You guys can do the same thing here.
Season begins this Saturday, February the 1st. A little road swing down in Iowa. You'll take on Cornell. You'll take on Loras. It'll be a Valentine's Day home opener against Wartburg in Jackson at the Pleasant Valley Tennis and Fitness Club on February the 14th. Okay, Coach Jay Massart, men's tennis. Before we let you go, we're going to play 5 questions. We played this in the fall when we previewed the women's season, but we're going to do it again. Different questions, otherwise no, you can't. Not the same questions.
Got it down.
No. All right. First answer that comes to mind, don't overthink it. Number 1, do you speak any foreign languages?
None. I'm terrible. I tried German and I'm awful. I flunked French.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. Number 2, the one rule change you have seen in your sport over your life and over your career that you really appreciate the most now?
I think the tiebreaker. Using the tiebreaker. Most recently, instead of playing third sets, sometimes they do 10-point tiebreakers.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
A hot dog is a hot dog.
So that's a no?
No.
Okay. But there's 2 pieces of bread over meat. Okay, that's fine. I won't push back. That's not not my job.
You're probably right.
What
do I know about a hot dog? I just eat it.
The musical instrument you do not play, but you would love to learn how.
Drums and guitar, both.
Nice.
I love to be in a rock band.
Oh, nice.
Darn, I blew it.
Is there still time? What are you talking about, Jay?
No
Come
musical
on.
talent whatsoever.
Number 5, the better survival rate, marooned on a deserted island or stuck on an oasis in the desert?
Oasis in the desert, because I would just start walking, and I don't think I could start swimming. So I'm one of those guys like, okay, I'm going to die out there. Let's go for it. Not just going to sit here and let it happen.
Rather than try to make a swim for it.
That's right.
And the bonus question. Jay, your most famous celebrity encounter?
Well, one time when I was at a USTA fundraising event, my wife and I sat next to Sean Connery. 007, James Bond.
You sat next to James Bond?
Yeah.
Sat next...
I think he was the best one, too. Sean Connery was good.
Oh, you think Bond, you go Connery.
Excellent.
So
he was really cool, too.
You're having conversation with him and all
conversations with him over dinner. He's got this accent and everything like that.
Yes, he
does. And he loves tennis. I have no idea how we got situated with him, but we did. And he was really a cool guy. It was like really James Bond. It wasn't like he was ever acting in the movies. No. I'm sitting. He's as cool as James Bond.
Yes. Well, if you don't mind me asking a follow-up, do you remember one particular little nugget he gave you, or one little back and forth you had that you still stick
No, I was talking to him about his backhand. He was leading with his elbow. I'm like, Jay, if you can't lead, Sean, you can't lead. You can't lead with your elbow on a one-handed backhand. You're going to get tennis elbow. He's like, oh my God, that's why it's hurting. So I gave
James Bond tennis tips.
Didn't even charge him. It was free. So.
Wow. I've been asking that question of everybody this school year, coaches, players.
That's got to be up there.
That's right up there. Oh my gosh. Wow. Next time you see Jay Massart, folks, ask him about the time he talked to James Bond about his backhand. This Saturday, February 1st, is when the Warriors will begin the men's tennis season down in Iowa, Cornell, and Loras. Coach, always enjoy our chats.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun.
Get it going. WLCsports.com. You can follow along.